I've been using a particular piece of music on this channel for a while now to demonstrate various recording and mixing techniques, but despite the fact it's been heard many thousands of times, nobody seems to have noticed the very specific thing we're going to talk about today regarding the harmonies or the vocal stack. Let me play a short section for you now, maybe you can spot what I'm talking about.
Please believe me, though you feel me, this is nothing new.
Now, to be honest with you, even though this song actually went on to win an award here in Australia and was played at the awards ceremony in front of many experts, still none of them spotted what I'd actually done with this vocal stack. To put you out of your misery, what I'm talking about here is the fact that although we could hear many different characters of voice in that vocal stack, in fact, it was all sung by one person. Now that can often turn out a little bit kind of weird sounding, and even the most untrained ear can usually spot that. So if you're looking for that vocal group sound, the illusion is then kind of broken, and that's not what I wanted here. So I'm going to run you through my exact technique for doing this, and I'm going to be using a plugin from SonarWorks. They're the people you usually associated with SoundID Reference, the room correction software. Now before we actually dive into the technique in full, let's just do a quick tour of the plugin I'm talking about. So the idea of this plugin, SoundID VoiceAI, is that you can create parts, not just vocal parts, even some instrument parts, by singing them in, and it will create the parts for you. So for example, you could create an electric bass part like this, or maybe a distorted guitar part. Maybe something like drums. Let's try it out. I'll have a listen to electronic drums. There's some acoustic drums. You get the idea, but we are going to be focused on voice replacement, and there's loads of voices to choose from. You can see them all here. Let's have a listen to Rebecca, for example.
But I keep rising, shaking off the rain.
Derek.
Nothing can hold me.
And finally, Henry.
I reach out, but you're not there.
So I'm going to be using some of these voices to create my vocal stack, but before I tell you exactly how I'm going to use it, I want to quickly mention I've just noticed that this plugin is on sale at the moment, but only for the next few days. I'm a little bit late getting to this video, so if you like what you see, don't waste any time in following the link in the description down below. So let's get into this. So I'm going to start off by creating some stereo unison vocals for my lead vocal. These are useful when you just want to make that lead vocal sound quite a lot bigger, and I use them in places like choruses normally. Now I've got the lead vocal, of course. It's here in pink, and it sounds like this.
Please believe me.
Now, of course, when we recorded this, there was several takes involved, so I've kept some of those takes to use them for this process. So the other take that I've got here that we didn't end up using for the lead sounds like this.
Please believe me.
And although it's in mono, we are going to use it as a source for a stereo track. But you do want to make sure when you do this that you change your track mode to stereo. Here in Studio One, I just click on this switch here for stereo processing. You'll have to look up in your DAW exactly how you do that. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead in the plugin and I'm going to click on the capture button. I simply now have to play my track. Now you're just going to hear the first few seconds of this, and then I'll fast forward it.
Please believe.
So now that it's actually captured that vocal, it's going to go ahead and do its analysis of it. Now I want to point out quickly here that this is a one-time thing for each vocal. You don't have to recapture and reanalyze every time you want to swap to a different voice. The other thing I want to point out here is all of that processing is happening on my local machine. That's because I've got a perpetual license. You can see this switch up here is switched to perpetual, but you can also have a pay-as-you-go license, and in that case the processing actually happens up in the cloud. But I like doing it all on my local machine, so I'm pretty happy with that perpetual license. Now that it's done all of its capturing and analysis, then we just have to select the voice that we want to use. Now I don't want to use Patrick here. I want to use something like Jasmine. She sounds like this.
Let the tide wash over you.
And as I said, I want to create a stereo unison. So I'm going to click to unison mode up here and change the number of voices to 2, okay, for stereo. Now at this point I could go ahead and transpose this, so I could do it, an octave below, an octave above, for example. I could do some pitch variation, but I think I'm going to be happy with those settings at the moment. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on start processing, and it's processing and creating that voice for me. Takes a few seconds, so again I'm just going to speed up the video. So now that it's created our voice, let's have a quick listen.
Please believe me.
Now I've got 2 voices in there, but they're sounding a little bit phasey. So the way to fix that is to create some timing variation. So I've found that a sweet spot is somewhere between 30 to 40 for this track. I'll put it around about there, and let's have another listen.
Please believe me, though you.
That's pretty good. It pretty much sounds like 2 separate takes by Jasmine here, one for the left and one for the right channel. So the next thing would be to blend that with the original lead vocals, and we'd end up with something like this.
Please believe me, though you feel me.
Okay, that's not a bad starting point, but now I want something a little bit lower. So again, I was using another one of Susie's takes as the basis for this track. This is another kind of unison, but 1 octave below, and it's a male voice. This is just to add a little bit of depth down there. And I've chosen this guy, Tyson. Now, Tyson is actually from one of the expansion packs that you can now get. They recently released them with a bunch of male and female kind of rock vocals, and also a whole bunch of kids' voices. The children's voices sound like this, for example.
I'm not afraid to fall.
Daisy
I
here.
reach out, but you're not there.
But that's not what I wanted, so in fact I did choose Tyson. He sounds like this.
Nothing can hold me.
Now, when it applied Tyson to Susie's voice, I think it sort of automatically figured out that it needed to be an octave lower. You can see the transpose is set to -12 there to make it an octave lower, and this was the result.
Please believe me, though you feel me.
Now, maybe it doesn't sound all that special by itself, but when we add it to the previous unison vocal and the lead vocal, this is what we've got so far.
Please believe me, though you feel me.
But of course, the magic really happens when you add some harmony. So I actually went ahead and repeated exactly the same process another 4 times for each of the harmonies that Susie sung. That generated another 8 voices because of the stereo aspect. And when we add that to what we already had, we've got a total of 12 voices in our vocal stack. Now, rather than play them one at a time, I thought I'll just play this section of the song again, and I'll introduce each pair so you can hear what they're doing.
Please believe me, though you feel me. This is nothing new.
Okay, so now for the other harmonies.
Though we played at all these games, yet I will forget you.
And I have to say, I'm really enjoying that result. I especially like it because it sounds like a whole bunch of different people. But you may be asking, what did it sound like really before when it was just Susie's voice? Well, let's have a quick listen to that so you can hear what we've actually achieved. Susie's voice alone was sounding like this.
Please believe me, though you feel me.
And that's okay, but it sounds a lot kind of flatter. Of course, it's in mono, it's not as wide. And you can kind of hear that it's all the same person singing at different pitches. And that, of course, as I said, is not what I wanted. So I am pleased with the result, but we should listen to it, I think, in the context of the full mix. So let's do that now.
Please believe me, though you feel me. This is nothing new. Though we played it, all these games, yeah.
So I wanted to quickly mention another way I've been using this plugin, and that's for vocal stand-ins. So often I'll be working on a new piece of music before Susie's able to come in and put the female vocal on there. But as I'm building up the arrangement, I want to make sure it fits well with the vocal. So what I do is I quickly record a stand-in vocal with my voice, and I use VoiceAI to replace it with a female voice similar to Susie's. Now this gives me something really substantial to work with and build my arrangement around before she finally comes in and records the final vocal. So what I really like about this was that I got the result I wanted and nobody seems to have noticed what I was actually doing. Now, of course, I didn't use this on the lead vocals, and why would I? Susie's got a perfectly wonderful, expressive human voice. However, I did notice that if you did put some expression into those harmony vocals, this plugin does pick up on that and it's reflected in the replacement vocals. They've just got a different character to them. But in the end, we still had to sing the parts. I still had to write the parts. We still had to do all of the really creative stuff. This just did the voice replacement, and I think it did a really good job. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, it does give me great pleasure always to let you guys know about a bargain. So remember, I said earlier that currently, at least for the next few days, there's 30% off of this plugin. Just follow the link in the description down below. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Mike, and I hope you're well.